Hello, everybody. Welcome to the third episode of Talking Data. My name is Ben McGrail from Xmateria, and I'm delighted to be joined today by Patric Dahse from Natuvion. Hello, Patric. Welcome to this, and thank you for taking part. Perhaps you could start maybe by just explaining your background and how Natuvion was formed.
Thanks, Ben. Yeah, welcome also from my side. My background is I started my career at SAP at a department which was called SLO, the former times like System Landscape Optimization. I think this term is still known in the market today. It changed a couple of times. But I worked for almost 8 years like a transformation consultant, senior consultant in the times of currency conversions, right? When the euro comes into the market, not for the UK, but for almost the rest of Europe, and a lot of conversion needs to be done, right? So with all the currency stuff, and at the same time, I learned a lot of M&A processes, carving in, merging systems together, harmonizing data, consolidating system. And this was my background, and after a couple of years, I founded with my partner Holger Strothmann Natuvion, who brought all the utilities knowledge into our company. In this time, the deregulation hit the market, right? And there was a lot of system splitting, like splitting out different customer groups in different parts of business into separate system landscapes and combining them and connecting them with the right processes and the financial processes. And this was one of the starting points of working together with my partner, and this became Natuvion today.
Yeah, and you've grown a lot, I think, since 2014. So we're working with you on projects in the UK. We work with customers to help them migrate data, moving data in because of an acquisition or moving data out of SAP because of a divestment, and obviously then the movement from ECC to S4, which we're starting to see a lot of at the moment. Where we work with you is around your core technology, which is essentially, like you said, from an SLO background, a landscape transformation technology. A lot of companies in the UK may not really know that term, landscape transformation. Could you explain it and what that offers to SAP customers? What software like Natuvion's DCS software brings to customers?
Of course. I mean, we started our company, and this was based on a business idea. I mean, we saw that the market is looking for a solution which is able to cover the full transformation process, which is identifying and analyze data, mapping, stage, and transform data, and then migrating data or loading data into the target environment. And I think the key technology underlying, or the key question we had in mind back in this time was, it is not only SAP, right? So we have not a single vendor strategy at our customer. They have SAP surrounded by Microsoft, by Oracle, by Salesforce, and so on. So this is what a customer technology looks like, or an architecture looks like today, and it gets more and more complicated with cloud, non-cloud, hybrid solutions and stuff like this. So our solution is covering the whole transformation process, from selecting and identifying what is relevant to migrate and what is fitting into the target system, including all the validation and quality assurance process before and after a transformation. So this is what we're doing, right? And in these terms, and it explains already what a landscape transformation is. Landscape transformation is not only SAP, but it's SAP centric with a lot of different solutions around. And whenever it comes in from our point of view, we cluster this in two big buckets, which is, one is technology driven, whenever our customers, and yours, Ben, as well, going from one release to another, from one software vendor to another, moving from on-premise into the cloud. So this is a technology-driven landscape transformation. There's another one, which is the optimization or the restructuring, so we call it, which is whenever the customer decides to sell something, to merge something, to restructure something, to get rid of data quality issues by merging business partners or splitting master data. This is an optimization trigger, which is also a landscape transformation part, and this is what we're covering with our software.
Yeah, and I think landscape transformation technology brings huge power and flexibility in terms of what you can do with an SAP system, including taking, historical data that wouldn't normally be possible through classic application methods of migration. And the project that we've just kicked off together, interestingly, brings together, you talked about business change and technological change. It brings together both of those, doesn't it? Because we're working with there's a UK utilities business that's separating out as divested of a power station. So we're talking there about a carve out from SAP, and then at the same time, the new organization is to be migrated onto S/4HANA. So there's a technical upgrade as well as that. So we're able to do multiple things with one project, one go live. Would you be able to talk about one or two other customers that you're working with, the kind of work that you're doing with some of the larger organizations in Germany?
Exactly what you mentioned, right? So it is you can just cluster it like we do. What is the trigger? But the landscape transformation option gives you always the flexibility. But so when we talk about moving something, as in the example we work together, moving something to a new release. So it could be done in multiple steps, right? So but the flexibility, and it is like when we talk about like a brownfield, it is like as a smart brownfield, I like to call it. So we can just combine different requirements from the customer and shorten the timeline, even bring more quality in such kind of transformation. So I think this is a good explanation again for the question before. For this question, what kind of customers? I mean, in terms of utilities, we have a huge customer in Europe, which is E.ON. It's one of our big long-term clients. We're working together, and we have a quite similar big program running where we move E.ON's retail business from one technology, which is a terabyte system, to a multi-cloud environment in multiple ways, right? And the fun fact is, it is like the state-of-the-art transformation as we go by the target technology readiness, right? So today we have ongoing continuous development processes, right? They deploying like weekly new functionality. And what we do is scanning the old system. This is identification. What kind of data fits, what kind of customers fits into a new landscape with the technology that is given in this week. And then we just collect 50,000 customers, 100, sometimes 1 million, and then we're moving them over with a full reintegration, which is a highly complex transformation process. But this is possible today, right? It's not a big thing anymore. It could be we could just orient or go with the functional requirement from the given business processes, right? So another one could be a how to phrase it right. So it is a multinational automotive manufacturer in Bavaria, right? which has a quite similar requirement, but there we have an ECC system moving it back by countries, which is not company codes, but by countries, by regions, into a greenfield S/4HANA system, which is not a brownfield. So we have a configuration. We need to have a historical configuration to a greenfield system, and this is a transformation based on our technology as well.
Yeah, and what I love about the Natuvion technology and what it gives to customers is that you're able to you're able to put the customer's business priority at the starting point. So what is it you need to happen from a business priority, and then we will make that happen from a technical, as a technical solution, rather than starting a conversation with the technical limitations. And I think SAP, you talked there about smart brownfield, or an SAP refers to this as selective data transition, SDT. And I think they're finally getting behind this as a concept, because customers that were, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, given the choice of it's a technical upgrade, and some went with that. But I also talked to customers, we're talking to one last week who started out along that route and then have really struggled to get business buy-in to that, because there's no real benefit to the business outside of the technical improvements of going that route. And at the other end of the scale, a complete re-implementation for many businesses, that's just not going to be an option because of the cost and the time scales, and and losing the investment they've made over years in their system. So that kind of, there's a spectrum of change there, and that smart brownfield selective data transition route, where you're able to combine the reuse, the repurposing of the investment they've made in solution and data to date, but at the same time change that to realize business benefit from the program. I think that's where it gets its power from in terms of a migration to S4HANA.
Absolutely. And there's one thing which always comes to my mind when you mention, right, is like Natuvion is a founding member of the Selective Data Transition Engagement. And we're working with SAP together to set the right quality gate and the right strategy, how to handle a selective data transition on a table-based approach. So, and when we started to bring this into the market, we talked about the 500 biggest customers. But this was 2.5 years ago, and when we look today about the studies which exist in the market, we did a study as well on how many customers really go for selective data transition. This is more than 35-36%, right? Which is even more when you take greenfield and brownfield as a separate bucket, right? So this is a huge amount of customers who have a requirement to cleanse up their systems, but have not enough time to put it into a logical chain, right? So, and yeah, very, very interesting development.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's going to be driving that move to S4HANA as over the next 5 years.
Absolutely.
Now, the Natuvion software and the approach, you obviously, you're able to help, and we're working with customers across numerous industries. But your particular expertise, your background, the real where you have real expertise is in that energy and utilities section of the market. I think it would be interesting to hear your perspective on some of the challenges that those customers face in terms of their SAP environments and in terms of the move to S4HANA. From a technical perspective, there are obviously some particular challenges they have with their SAP system. On the one hand, the utilities businesses, they're direct retail businesses, but huge numbers of customers, millions and millions of customers with all the impact that comes in terms of performance and data quality of massive numbers of customers and customer billing. And then on the other hand, you've got some real critical infrastructure, and in terms of SAP, it's enterprise asset management and plant maintenance. So there's specific challenges there. There's also a specific commercial context, I think, in the UK with the budgetary cycles, the asset management plans that the water industries go through, so the government recognises as well in the UK that for the utilities businesses, it's not technology, it's not just a back office function here. Technology and digital is going to drive that way forward in terms of how they interact with their customers, and so digital is a huge part of those budgets as they move forward. And it'd be interesting to hear what you see in Central Europe, but your specific expertise around utilities and what that means for these customers as they look to move to S4HANA.
Yeah. Let me start what you mean. I mean, you said already a couple of challenges with utilities, right? So utilities is like a mass, I like to call it mass customer industry or end customer industry, which is they usually have a huge volume of customers, and they are in contact every month with them, which is special for a kind of retailer or special for a kind of like when we look to the industries which are quite comparable, like insurance and banking, media, telecommunication, healthcare, which is like this, but they're not in constant contact with all of their customer base. And utilities is in contact with their customer base every month. And this is, they need a high degree of automation. So wherever, I mean, what we see in the market, and this is really around the globe, is there are a lot of competitors in terms of software which just pop up and say, hey, we can do it better as other software vendors. But the automation, the degree of automation is so high that you need to that you are able to handle this amount of requests, right? So they have customer service. They need the telephone, the agents talking to the customers. So the system needs to work 24/7, right? So this is a huge challenge. They have huge amounts of data they're producing, which is when you take Eon, what I mentioned before, which is a 40 terabyte system, or we had CMake in Europe, which is a 50 terabyte system, right? Or we had a request in the US, which also a 50 terabyte system, and they want to move into the cloud. They want to detox their systems, right? They want to downsize their databases, only take what they really need, and so on. And at the same time, they have high requirements on data exchange regulated by the government, right? So they need to change any customer request process-wise, and this changes when we take Germany. This changes all 6 months, right? So they give new regulations. So which means when we're talking and when we come back to a transformation, so this needs to be taken into account, right? So you need to understand so how the automation works, the work needs to be migrated, and you need to understand how you bring the data over. They need historical information because they have all their analyses, their calculations, the customer information, the 360-degree views for the agent needs to be available in one system, locking into the other system in both, right? So you can handle a very short period of downtime when it comes to migration, and for the downtime, if there is a downtime, so you need to handle the requests coming in this downtime and processing them post or pre, or however you're going to into the system. So you need to understand, or let's put it this way: you need to have industry smell, right, and bring it into the process understanding, and then you need to bring the data over in the right format, in the right way, because one of the requirements what we see today when people move to S/4HANA or even to non or coming from non they quite often split their customer bases, right? They say, hey, we have the B2C business, and we have the business, and we go in one direction and the other direction, or we going with a small group of customers first the system, and we try it for a while, and then we move wave-wise to the system. So there is quite often not a one-step approach. It's quite often so we go with this group of customers to this system, and this fits better to our requirements, and we go with this group of customers to system and services, and this needs to be edited, moved, and you understand the processes in between, and quite often you need a reintegration into the old system that you can even handle if someone moves back into the old system. So this is quite important as well, which is an integration business, right? So so this, I think, this are a couple of the challenges we have, and of course when we talk about we going selectively with historical data, there will be always a kind of rest, right? And this needs to be understand how to decommission this kind of data, as you have special requirements in terms of billing in the utility. So there are billing document changes and manipulations, right? So when you get your bill as a customer, and after a couple of months you say, hey, this is not correct, right? So you need to change it. So this is a general process. You can just change your bill within 3 years, like with a time frame within 3 years, and then you need a process. If you say, hey, I go with 2 years of history to a system, you need a process in your retention storage that you can get the information from the retention storage and get it into your system, that you can change the bill and create a new billing document, which is quite important and reduces a lot of effort for the customer.
Yeah.
Right? And all this information needs to be available before you start your project. So this is what we do with our customers. I mean, we scan it. We say, hey, these are your logs on devices. These are your manual correction on billings, and so on. And we say, hey, these are the critical parts, and we need to take care about this before we start the transformation. So as you find out afterwards, right? So it's too late.
Yeah, that's right, and that would tend to rule out, a new implementation of SAP with no history. It's never going to work. At the same time, a purely technical upgrade, you've mentioned things there. They want the ability to be able to select. They want the ability. I mean, data quality is when you've got 5 million, 10 million customers, that the impact of poor data quality is going to be huge on the business, both in terms of, the trust that your customers have in you, but also the cost of processing, requests from customers. So you need to be able to improve that system, selectively migrate that system, and the technology with which you do it has to be hugely performant on those kind of volumes and repeatable. So it's a perfect kind of storm, really, in terms of going that selective data transition route to go to S4. It looks like a route that you have to take for utilities businesses, and particularly, I think, data quality and system improvement, and being able to show that you've made improvements for your customers in order to be able to meet the commitments that you've made, particularly in the UK, the commitments that they've made as part of their asset management plans, the budgets that they've agreed with government. They have to be able to show that they've met those commitments. So there's a lot going on in those programs. Well, thank you very much for your time today. We certainly look forward to working with you more in the UK. And yeah, great. I hope everybody has enjoyed this. Thank you very much, Patric.
Ben, thank you for inviting me. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.